What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Vegas 103. We have Manel Kape going against Almabayev, and we are back in the Apex in what should be a very fun card. I'm actually really looking forward to this one. I think there's a bunch of bangers on this card, and yeah, I think it's going to be a good. Not sure if it's going to be like all finishes like last week, but I do think there will be some finishes. I do think a couple of guys are going to get served, and that's always fun. So yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to breaking it all down. Before we get into the video, if you guys could please do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment. All three of those things go a very long way and are very much appreciated. If you guys want to support me more, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. That's where you'll find all my other content, bets, stats, articles, all that. I have one bet thus far and looking to add a bunch more. I'm loving this card from a betting perspective. And yeah, as you guys can see, I did upload the graphics. Somebody, a couple weeks ago said that my graphics sucked and took it to heart. I mean, I work hard. I work hard for the graphics. I do them manually. I sit there and it takes about an hour and a half. And I was like, you know what? Maybe he's right. Maybe they're not the best. So upgraded them a little bit, and hopefully you guys like them and enjoy them. I used to do the Tapology, right? Used to have the Tapology in the background. So this is a much bigger upgrade from that, I'd say. So I'm happy with it. Hopefully you guys are happy with it as well. But yeah, looking forward to this card. I say we get into it, guys, and we're going to start with the first fight of the card. And we have Ramazan Temirov going against Charles Johnson. We got Ramazan Temirov, who is 28 years old, 5'4", with a 63-inch reach. He is 18-2 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. As far as Charles Johnson, he is 34 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach, 17-6 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds like we always do, and we see that Ramazan Temirov opened up as a plus 135 underdog. He is now sitting as a minus 135 favorite. As far as Charles Johnson, he opened up as a minus 155 favorite, and now he's a plus 115 underdog. So I have a lot of stake in this fight. Not only am I going to have a bet on Charles Johnson, but if you guys follow me on Twitter, I made a post and I said, hey, listen, if Charles Johnson wins the fight this Saturday, I will be actually buying a Skull It Gang t-shirt from Charles Johnson's, merch website, right? And if Charles Johnson wins this fight in round 3, I will be shaving my head into a skullet. If you guys don't know what a skullet is, it's that weird thing that Charles Johnson has on the back of his head. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm a big fan of, Charles Johnson in terms of like the fighting ability, in terms of the haircut, not so much. But yeah, if Charles Johnson wins this fight, I'll be getting Charles Johnson Skull It Gang merch. So I have a lot riding here. But yeah, in terms of this fight, I think Charles Johnson's very, very live to win this fight. Like, this fight kind of feels like the Angela Hill Ketlin Souza fight a couple weeks back, where on one side you have in what should be the clear minute winner in Charles Johnson, the guy that's much more experienced, much more battle tested, has fought the much better level of competition, and then you have a guy in Ramazan Temirov who just has really one tool, really, and that's, winging a big shot. That's what he does. And, knockouts at flyweight, they're not that common. I know he knocked out Cedric Vergara, but that doesn't really impress me that much. And I went through and watched Ramazan Temirov, and yeah, that's what he does. He tries to take your head off. He's very low volume. He'll do a lot of nothing for a couple minutes, and then he'll explode with big combinations. But, Charles Johnson is just going to be doing more. Charles Johnson's going to have the better cardio, the better output. I think if Temirov's winning this fight, he's going to have to either hurt Johnson in 2 out of the 3 rounds or be the first person to ever finish Charles Johnson. Johnson's 6 losses, never been finished, only's been knocked down once, and he won that fight that he got knocked down in. So, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here. Temirov, the dude has a ton of power, but I just don't really think him knocking out Charles Johnson is all that likely. So I'm going Charles Johnson here. I'm going to be picking him to win this fight by decision. And again, if Charles Johnson gets it done and cashes my bet, I'll be getting a Skull It Gang t-shirt. So let's go Charles Johnson. Let's get that W. Moving on to the next fight. I'm not buying any damn t-shirts in this fight. That's for sure. Jeez. We got Luana Carolina going against Montana De La Rosa. We got Luana Carolina, 31 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach, 11-4 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Montana De La Rosa, 30 years old, 5'7", with a 68-inch reach, 13-9 and 1 and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds, and we see that Luana Carolina opened up minus 170. She's currently minus 135. Montana De La Rosa opened up plus 145, and she is currently sitting as a plus 115 favorite. So I think both female fights this week, they're both flyweight fights. I think they're both going to be a split decision. This has split decision written all over it. Pre-tape was kind of leaning Montana De La Rosa. Post-tape, I'm kind of leaning Luana Carolina, but like I said, it's going to be a close fight. Luana Carolina, I was actually really impressed with her takedown defense, and that's going to be key here, right? Like Montana De La Rosa, she's going to try to push Luana Carolina against the cage. She's going to try to take her down. If she does, she probably is going to get some control time on top, but if not, on the feet, I think Luana Carolina is just a much better striker. Montana De La Rosa, kind of a walking punching bag. Their striking has came a long way, but you have to favor Luana Carolina on the feet, right? Yeah, and I was going back and watching a lot of Carolina's fights, and it's like, yeah, her takedown defense is very good. She's very hard to take down. So if that's the case, I got to lean her way. But yeah, I mean, like I said, this fight's going to be super close. But I slightly got to go to the Luana Carolina side. I'm going to pick her to win this fight by decision. And I would be fairly surprised if one of these fighters looked dominant here. It's going to be close. But yeah, give me Luana Carolina by a close split decision. Moving on to the next fight. We got Danny Silva going against Lucas Almeida. Banger of a fight. We have a ton of fun fights on this card. This is absolutely one of those fun fights. Danny Silva, 28 years old, 5'11" with a 70-inch reach. He's 9-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Lucas Almeida, 34 years old, 5'11", with a 71-inch reach, 15-3 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. This fight opened up a straight pick'em, minus 110 each way. Right now we have Danny Silva minus 180, Lucas Almeida plus 155. And I've been waiting to see Danny Silva, back in there. I'm a big fan of this guy and his style. Danny Silva on the feet, he's very reckless. He is willing to eat one to give one. The definition of that, and this guy, very, very fun, very exciting fighter. BJJ black belt as well. You can wrestle a little bit, which I think that might come into play here. Lucas Almeida is a fun fighter in his own right. This guy is willing to eat one to give one. 46% strike and defense for Almeida, a ton of power in his hands. He's a BJJ black belt as well, but I really question the ground game of Almeida. Anytime we've seen Almeida off of his back, it's looked very bad. And I'm not just talking in the Sabatini fight where Sabatini took him down and just completely dominated him. The fight wasn't even close. I'm talking about like in other fights. He gets taken down, gets put into bad spots, gets stuck on his back. And if you're Danny Silva here, you best believe he should be probably mixing in the takedowns, right? And if he does that, like I said, I know Almeida's a black belt in his own right. I just think there is a big levels difference in terms of that ground game. So on the feet, I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a war. Both these guys want to bite down on the mouthpiece and swing dicks, but I just think Danny Silva has the better durability. He's younger. I like the volume a little bit more, and I think he has the wrestling and grappling upside of this matchup. So I do like Danny Silva to win this fight. I think he's going to go to that ground game, and I think he can sub Lucas Almeida here. We got to remember, Danny Silva was very close to submitting Josh Kulabau early on in his UFC debut. That was a very, very close submission attempt there, and I think he potentially can get it here if he uses the right path. So I like Danny Silva here. This has potential to be fight of the night if there wasn't so many other great fights on this card. But give me Danny Silva. Give me Danny Silva by second round submission. Next fight, we have J.J. Aldrich versus Andrea Lee. I don't believe there's going to be any dick swinging in this one, but we'll see. We got J.J. Aldrich, 32 years old, 5'5", with a 67.5-inch reach, 13-7 and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Andrea Lee, 36 years old, 5'6", with a 69.5-inch reach, 13-10 and 0-5 in her last 5 fights. J.J. Aldrich opened up minus 190, currently minus 195. Andrea Lee opened up plus 165, currently plus 170. And this, I think, is going to be the classic, value loser, because I think there's a lot of value on Andrea Lee at plus 170. Like, in what world does J.J. Aldrich look minus 195 against anybody not named Liang Na? It just hasn't happened. So I do expect this fight to be competitive. With that said, though, I can't pick Andrea Lee. I can't do it. Not only is she on a 5-fight losing streak, and you look through some of those losses, and it's like some of these losses, it's not the worst deal in the world, but it's how she's looking in some of these losses, more specifically her last 2 fights. I did not like how she looked in the Montana De La Rosa fight. Getting outstruck by Montana De La Rosa at distance is not a great look at all. Didn't like how she looked in the Maverick fight. Getting outstruck at distance by Miranda Maverick 2-1 was not a great look at all. So not only is Andrea Lee losing fights, but I do think she's declining heavily, and quite frankly, I'm just not sure she gives a shit anymore. I mean, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting with Andrea Lee. It just looks like, I don't know, just looks like she doesn't care anymore. And yeah, it's kind of hard to care when you're on a 5-fight skid. So JJ Aldrich, I think it's a good stylistic matchup for her in a sense that she's very hard to take down. Like, she stuffed every single Erin Blanchfield takedown. She was able to stuff all the Jillian Robertson takedowns, keep it on the feet, and beat Jillian Robertson. And I think she's going to be able to stuff the takedowns here if they come. And then on the feet, it's going to be close, but I think you got to favor Aldrich on the feet. So, yeah, I mean, if this was Andrea Lee of like 2 years ago, yeah, I would probably have to bet her at plus 170, but 36-year-old Andrea Lee on a 5-fight skid, I'm not touching her. I'm not touching this fight, but I'm going to pick JJ Aldrich, and I'm going to take Aldrich to win, probably by a split decision. Moving on to the next fight, we got John Castaneda going against Douglas Silva de Andrade. We got John Castaneda, 33 years old, 5'6", with a 71-inch reach, 21-7, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Douglas Silva de Andrade, 39 years old, 5'7", with a 68.5-inch reach. He's 29-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we have John Castaneda opened up minus 150, currently minus 230. Douglas Silva de Andrade opened up plus 130. He is currently a plus 195 underdog. And yeah, it's Douglas Silva de Andrade, 39 years old at bantamweight. We typically don't see, fighters up in their, high 30s, 40s having a lot of success in these lower weight classes. Higher weight classes, you can absolutely get away with it. We just saw Jerry Cannonier at middleweight go out there and pull off a big upset. We've seen, light and heavyweights go out there. Jan Blachowicz win a title at like 40-some years old. We've seen Glover Teixeira have a ton of success at 40-some years old. We've seen a bunch of heavyweights at 40 years old. But in terms of flyweights, bantamweights, featherweights, lightweights, we don't typically see these 40-year-olds having a ton of success, right? So, and we do see Douglas Silva de Andrade decline. I have not liked what I've seen in his last couple fights. I was actually live at the Cody Stamann fight, and I had a bet on Douglas Silva de Andrade, and I thought he clearly lost that fight. I mean, it was close, it was competitive, but Cody Stamann drops Douglas Silva de Andrade badly in the 3rd round, loses that 3rd round very badly, and just getting dropped by Cody Stamann, that's not a great look. The Miles Johns performance was just a horrible look. He basically did nothing in that fight over 15 minutes, so I do think we're seeing a pretty steep decline in Douglas Silva de Andrade, who I'm a big fan of. I like this guy. He's a fun fighter. He brings a lot of power, but in this matchup specifically, it's like John Castaneda, he's going to be 6 years younger, almost 7 years younger. And John Castaneda, he's going to have a lot more volume. I think he's going to have the much better cardio. John Castaneda, I think, has all the wrestling upside as well. Probably even the more durable guy at this stage of their careers, too. So, yeah, I like John Castaneda here. I think he's just going to outwork Douglas Silva de Andrade over the course of 15 minutes. It should be a fun fight. Both these guys will probably land some hard shots either way, but I think John Castaneda is just going to do more and get a decision here. So give me John Castaneda. Give me John Castaneda to win by decision. Next fight, we have Chepe Mariscal going against Ricardo Ramos. We got Chepe Mariscal, 32 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach, 17-6, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Ricardo Ramos, 29 years old, 5'9", with a 72-inch reach, 17-6, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have Chepe, one of the biggest, if not the biggest favorite on the card, opened up minus 180. He's minus 500. Wow. Ricardo Ramos opened up plus 155. He's now plus 375. So this is a very interesting fighter. It's a fun fight. The Chepe Mariscal fight and Chepe Mariscal fights, they're fun, they're chaotic, they're awesome. So I think this fight's going to be awesome as well. But I'm looking at this fight, and it's like skill for skill. You compare these guys, and you put their skills, head-to-head against each other, right? Chepe Mariscal in no way, shape, or form is minus 500 skill-wise against Ricardo Ramos. I actually think Ricardo Ramos is a very skilled fighter. BJJ black belt, can wrestle a little bit, very dangerous on the ground. The striking is very good. Ricardo Ramos' striking is very good. A ton of tools on the feet, a ton of power. So yeah, skill for skill. I think this fight is a lot closer than this line does indicate. The problem is Ricardo Ramos, I think, lacks heart. I think he lacks cardio. I think he lacks durability. And those 3 things, I think, are huge, not only in general, but in this fight. Because you look at the Chepe side, and what does Chepe have? Chepe has all the heart in the world, all the cardio in the world, and the durability, earlier in his career, not the best, but he's definitely the more durable fighter here. So I'm worried about Ricardo Ramos. This guy just horrible nail. If Chepe gets on top of this guy, he's probably going to look for a way out. If he gets tired, he's probably going to look for a way out. So I went back and watched the Chepe Mariscal Damon Jackson fight, and I was like, man, if Chepe's doing this to Ricardo Ramos is looking for the door 100%. So I like Chepe here. It's a very wide line, but I'm going to pick Chepe Mariscal. I think he's going to cook Ricardo Ramos. I think he's going to break him, and I think he's going to finish him in the third round. So give me Chepe Mariscal to win this fight by third round TKO. Next fight, we have what should be a fun fight, man. We got Danny Barlow going against Sam Patterson. We got Danny Barlow, 29 years old, 6'2", with a 79-inch reach, 9-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Sam Patterson, 28 years old, 6'3", with a 78-inch reach, 12-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have Danny Barlow opened up. Hey, stop that. Hey, stop that. Stop that. My gosh, you try to record a video and people are banging and stuff. Jeez. Get some help. We got Danny Barlow, minus 300. Sam Patterson, plus 250. So yeah, this fight should be fun, man. We have Danny Barlow, nickname Left Hand to God, and if you guys have watched any Danny Barlow, you'll kind of know why. This guy has a ton of power in his left hand, and he's going against Sam Patterson, who is literally begging to be knocked out in every single fight he's in. Like, Sam Patterson has the definition of tall man's defense, chin straight up in the air, hands down to his waist. I mean, the striking defense is non-existent for Sam Patterson. We've seen him knocked out in both of his losses. We've seen him hurt in a lot of fights, and that's because he doesn't block punch. He blocks him, but he blocks them with his face, his chinny face, right? And just the left hand with the chinny face, it's just not the best recipe for success here for Sam Patterson. With that said, though, if Sam Patterson is able to get this fight down to the ground, I think he's very live to either put Barlow in some very tough positions or maybe even finish the fight. Danny Barlow, I know it was a couple years ago. I have seen him, taken down and almost finished on the mat. And Sam Patterson, this guy's no joke. If he can get the fight down to the ground, we've seen it. Against Johan Lioness, took him down. Didn't even take him down. Took his neck and instantly submitted him. Against Kiefer Crosby, took him down and instantly submitted him. Although Danny Barlow is much better than both those guys, Sam Patterson's still on the ground. This guy's no joke. But you got to get it there, right? Every fight starts on the feet, and it's just hard to not imagine Danny Barlow just landing one of those big left hands on the chin of Sam Patterson, which is just there for the taking. So I think somebody's getting served here. I think somebody's getting piped on sight, quite frankly. I think somebody's going to get very hurt here, and I think that somebody is unfortunately Sam Patterson. So I'm going to take Danny Barlow to win this fight by first round knockout, but if this fight hits the ground, it's going to get very interesting very quickly. But give me Barlow by KO 1. Next fight. We got William Gomi going against Haider Amil. We got William Gomi, 27 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach, 14-2, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Haider Amil, 34 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach, 10-0, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. William Gomi opened at minus 240, currently minus 210. Haider Amil opened up plus 205, currently plus 180. And this fight, I don't know what to think about this fight, because we have an absolute clash of styles here. Just an absolute clash of styles. On one hand, we have Haider Amil, who this guy's fun to watch. Haider Amil fights are the absolute best. This guy just doesn't care. He'll go in there, he'll show no defense at all. He'll be very wild, like his nickname, right? The Hurricane. That's perfect for him because he is a hurricane in there. He's just absolutely nonstop, tons of volume, pressure, pace, puts everything into his shots. He's looking to take your head off. He's looking to take you down and submit you. Haider Amil is a very, very fun and exciting fighter. On the flip side, you have William Gomi, who's the most boring fighter in the UFC. I mean, this guy's so boring, dude. William Gomi is so boring. So boring. It's like watching paint dry. His fights are awful. And with that said, though, William Gomis is a very skilled fighter. This guy has a ton of skill. I think he's very good. But in terms of like a entertainment standpoint, William Gomis is the least entertaining fighter I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, Gomis, 71% strike and defense. Defensively responsible to a T. This guy's probably one of the most defensively responsible fighters in the UFC. He doesn't get hit. You know, he does do a lot of running away. He tries to slow the fight down as much as possible. And in his first 4 fights, he's 4-0. The Jarno Aarons fight, it was a competitive fight. William Gomis got it done, though, and got the win. Against Francis Marshall, it was a competitive fight, a split decision. The worst fight I think I've ever seen in my entire life, where Francis Marshall decided to not fight until there was 1 minute left in the fight. It was absolutely insane. And the Giannis Gamori fight had a phantom knockout where he kicked Yamis Gamori in the balls, and the ref said it was a TKO. That was an awful fight. And then against Joanne Anderson Brito, I thought Gomi clearly lost the fight, but I believe they were in France and they gave it to him. And even that fight was boring. Like, how do you make a Joe Anderson Brito fight boring? So I'm struggling here because it's, you know, who's going to get their way? Is this going to be a William Gomi fight where the fight's completely awful? They stare at each other for 15 minutes, and William Gomis wins a split decision at -210. Or is this going to be a Haider Emil fight? Is this fight going to be a dog fight? If this fight's a dog fight, there's only one dog fighting in this matchup, you know, both figuratively and literally, and that's Haider Emil. Haider Emil wants to fight. Haider Emil wants to go in there and take your head off, whereas William Gomis wants to run away for 15 minutes. So, it's a tough one, but I'm going to lean towards Haider Emil here. I think he can win in multiple different ways. I think he can potentially hurt William Gomis. I think he can potentially take him down and sub William Gomis. I think he can potentially do more across 15 minutes than William Gomis, have the bigger moments. So at +180, I have a feeling that, you know, Gomi might do it again. He might win an annoying split decision, but I got to go with Haider Emil here. Give me Haider Emil to win this fight. I'll take him to win this fight by 3rd round KO. I think he's going to put a pace on Gomi, slow him down, and finish him late. Haider Emil by 3rd round KO. Moving on to the next fight, we got a heavyweight fight here. It is Mario Pinto going against Austin Lane. We got Pinto, 26 years old, 6'5", with an 80-inch reach, 9-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Austin Lane, 37 years old, 6'6", with an 80-inch reach, 13-5 and 2-2 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Mario Pinto making his debut, big favorite. Opened up -400. He's currently -370. Austin Lane opened up +330. He's currently sitting as a +305 underdog. And yeah, watched all the tape on Pinto, and I was very impressed with Pinto. You know, it's not often in the heavyweight division where we see a well-rounded guy who can kind of do it all. Most guys in the heavyweight division just hit hard, but Mario Pinto, I've seen him get takedowns, I've seen him stuff takedowns, I've seen him get knockouts. You know, the hands look good. And I'm looking at this matchup, and it's like Austin Lane, he's had a lot more success than I thought he would in the UFC. He got a UFC win, which I did not think that would ever happen, but he did. He beat Rebelos Despain over the course of 15 minutes using the wrestling. But I'm looking at this matchup, and it's like, man, if Austin Lane cannot get the wrestling going here, he's in a lot of trouble. Austin Lane striking, I don't think is that great, especially when you compare it to Mario Pinto, who I think is just going to have a big striking advantage. And if it turns out Pinto is able to stuff the takedowns like I'm thinking, I think it's going to be a long night, or really probably a short night for Austin Lane here. So I like Pinto. It's always tough trusting a newcomer at -370, but I definitely got to pick him here to win. I just really struggle to see a path for Lane. I know it's a heavyweight fight. I really struggle to see a path. Like, if Lane's winning this fight, he's going to have to take down Pinto and win 2 out of the 3 rounds via the wrestling. And I'm just not sure that's on the table here against Pinto, who can stuff a takedown, unlike Rebelos Despain. So I'm going to go Mario Pinto to win this fight, and I think he knocks out Lane within the first 2 rounds. We'll call it a 2nd round knockout for Mario Pinto here. Moving on to the next fight, which probably should be the co-main event, and it's not, but it's a fun fight regardless. We got Esteban Ribovics going against Nasrat Haqparast. We got Ribovics, who is 28 years old, 5'10", with a 69-inch reach, 14-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Nasrat Haqparast, 29 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 17-5 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We have Haqparast, the dog, but he opened up the favorite. -210 he opened up. He's currently +210. As far as Ribovics opened up +180, he's currently -250. So, yeah, this is a fight where I'm a big fan of this fight. Esteban Ribovics is a guy that the only knock really on Ribovics I've ever had was the takedown defense. This guy has the worst takedown defense you'll ever see. On paper, I think his takedown defense is at 61%, which shocks me because literally anytime somebody goes for a takedown, they get it. And his takedown defense is pretty much attacking with a Kimura, at least on the regional scene especially. But yeah, I mean, this guy can be taken down. So against a wrestler, and that's his only loss, which was against a wrestler. Against a wrestler, there could be some problems. Haqparast is not a wrestler, and Haqparast will not wrestle. These two are going to strike, and it's going to be an absolute banger. Both these guys are, do want to throw down. Both these guys have a ton of power as well. I think Haqparast is like 7 knockdowns, 8 knockdowns in the UFC. But the line is wide. The line is wide on Ribovics here. This guy was I think a pretty big underdog against Zellhuber. Now he's a pretty big favorite against Haqparast, but I think a lot of that has to do really with their last fight, both of them, right? In Ribovics' last fight, we saw this dude shine. One of the best, if not the best fights of 2024, UFC 306 in the Sphere, fight of the night, fight of the year potentially, where he basically finished Daniel Zellhuber. I mean, the ref, I think it was Herzog, just didn't stop the fight. He had Herzog doing the stanky leg for like 1 minute and 30 seconds, running away, which is not intelligently. Running away is not intelligently defending yourself. It's just not. So the fight should have been stopped. Ribovics should have had a 3rd round knockout win, but he ended up getting the win regardless by split decision, which was a great win. Zellhuber's a great fighter. So yeah, I think Esteban Ribovics, his stock completely rose after that fight. Prior to that, knocked out Terrence McKinney in 30 seconds, which is it's a good win. As far as Haqparast, I think he's had some stinkers in the UFC. He's had some bad performances. The Dan Hooker fight, the dude didn't show up. The Bobby Green fight, got schooled for 15 minutes. But that Jared Gordon win, I don't think was a great look. For one, he didn't win that fight. I don't know how and why the judges scored it for Nasrat Haqparast. I thought that it was a pretty clear Jared Gordon win there. But yeah, they gave him the split decision. But I was watching that fight, and it's like, it looked like Jared Gordon was starting to break Haqparast in that 2nd round. I think I had a bet on like Gordon by decision, or I think I had like Gordon by decision, which didn't cash because of the crooked, corrupt judges. But yeah, I was like, dang, Gordon's about to finish this guy. Gordon's about to finish Nasrat Haqparast. He's breaking him in the 2nd round. Haqparast was like running away, eating big shots in that 2nd round. If he slows down or does that against Ribovics, he's getting served, right? So, yeah, I think it's a good spot here for Ribovics. Like I said, it is a wide line, but he's going to get the fight he wants, and that's a fight that takes place on the feet. And I just like the volume of Ribovics. I think he's although both guys are durable, I think he's the more durable fighter, and I think he's going to break Haqparast here. I think he's going to get him out of there as the fight goes on. I don't think Haqparast is going to be able to take all this volume, all this power for 15 minutes. So I'm going to take Esteban Ribovics to win this fight, and I think he knocks out Haqparast. I think he's the 2nd person to knock out Nasrat Haqparast, who, like I said, is durable, but when you're eating these big shots this many times, I think he's going to get him out. So yeah, give me Ribovics to win this fight. Give me Ribovics to win by 2nd round knockout in what is going to be the fight of the night, I think. Moving on to the co-main event, which is probably the sketchiest fight on the card, but yeah, we got Julian Marquez going against Cody Brundage. We got Julian Marquez, 34 years old, 6'2" with a 72-inch reach, 9-5 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Cody Brundage, 30 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach, 10-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. We have Julian Marquez, who opened up minus 220. He's currently minus 165. Cody Brundage opened up plus 185, currently plus 145. It's one of those fights where I really don't want to pick either guy to win. Maybe it's a draw. Maybe both these guys are so bad that neither guy is able to get a win here, and it ends up being a draw. That could happen, potentially. But I don't know what to do here, because there's red flags on both these guys, and a ton of them. We can go all day about the red flags on both these guys. Julian Marquez used to be next level durable, next level chin on this guy, but he has back-to-back first round, well, the Barrio knockout loss was in the 2nd. So 2 knockout losses in the 1st, 1 in the 2nd, but regardless, 3 knockout losses in a row for Julian Marquez. It seems like ever since he asked out Miley Cyrus or whatever. He's just completely went to shit. It's been bad for Julian Marquez, and I'm worried about him. I'm worried about Julian Marquez at this point. And then you got Brundage, who, what can you say? What can you say? What can you say? Right? Right. So I'm looking at this fight, and it's like, Julian Marquez, I think, at least has, heart, although I don't think the skills are quite there. I'm not really sure what Marquez is good at outside of having a little bit of heart. Brundage, probably the more skilled fighter, has some power. He can wrestle a little bit, but just Brundage is a very bad nail. Right? I worry about Brundage in this matchup because I think it all really ultimately comes down to who lands first here. But I think I trust the durability and heart a little bit more on Marquez. On top of that, I do feel like Marquez has some ways to win in terms of maybe he does land a big shot, and that's that. Or, Julian Marquez does have a very slick submission game as well. If Cody Brundage does get hurt and shoots in for a takedown, Julian Marquez does have some solid front chokes in jiu-jitsu. So I don't want to pick either one of these guys. And I'm a big fan of, like, in terms of their styles, I'm a big fan. It's just you put these guys together and it's like, who the hell do you pick in this one? I think a lot of people are going to be on Brundage this week. I think Brundage is probably the most popular dog on the card, and this line might even flip. I see money pouring in on Brundage. Don't bet this fight. In terms of a pick, jeez. In terms of picking one of these guys, I'm going to pick I'll pick Marquez. Oh, God help me. I'll pick Marquez to win this fight by submission, club and sub. I'll say Brundage gets hurt, shoots in, gets his neck snatched up. But jeez, I don't know what's going to happen here. Give me Julian Marquez, first round, club and sub. God help anybody who's laying money on either of these guys. The pick, Julian Marquez by first round, club and sub. Let's move on to the main event. It is Manel Kape going against Almabayev. We got Manel Kape, 31 years old, 5'5" with a 68-inch reach, 20-7, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Almabayev, 31 years old, 5'4", with a 65-inch reach, 21-2, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. Manel Kape opened up minus 250, currently minus 230. Almabayev opened up plus 210, currently plus 195. Almabayev is taking a big step up of competition. You look at Manel Kape's resume, even outside the UFC, but inside the UFC especially, man, it's like, fighting guys like Muhammad Mokaev, who's very good, obviously not in the UFC, but very good. Guys like Mateus Nicolau, guys like Alexander Pantoja, the champion, right? And Manel Kape, the one knock on him, well, I have a couple knocks. So the one knock I used to have on him was, I thought the ground game was a little suspect. He has 2 submission losses. I've seen him taken down, controlled outside the UFC. I think he's patched that hole up. I think it's patched up. Black belt and BJJ now. We've seen guys like Mateus Nicolau. We've seen guys like Pantoja not be able to take down and hold down Kape. We've seen guys like Mokaev not be able to take down and hold down Kape, right? So, yeah, I think Kape's takedown defense, scrambling ability, jiu-jitsu, all has improved leaps and bounds over the course of the last several years. The striking's always been there, always been a great striker. But, yeah, the other knock I have on him is sometimes he just goes in there and doesn't fight. Like, he doesn't throw anything. It's the weirdest thing ever. Like, in the Pantoja fight, he didn't do anything, lost it. In the Nicolau fight, he didn't do anything, lost it. In the Manel Kape fight, or the Muhammad Mokaev fight, he literally didn't do anything over the course of 15 minutes and lost to Muhammad Mokaev. He only landed 20 strikes, so that's the one concern, right? Like, if Manel Kape shows up, he's very good, and he should win this fight, but I could see a situation where he somehow, some way makes this way too close of a fight because he just doesn't throw anything. But yeah, I got to go Kape here. I think Kape's going to be able to stuff the takedowns. I doubt that Almabayev is going to be able to take down and hold down Kape over the course of 25 minutes or submit him. I think Kape stuffs the takedowns. I think he's the better striker over the course of 25. But yeah, Could be closer. Depends on which Manel Kape shows up. Is he going to be aggressive? Will he not be aggressive? We'll see. But I got to pick Kape here. I'm going to pick Kape to win this fight by decision. And there you guys have it. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys could please do me a favor on your way out, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys are liking this week from a betting perspective. Let me know your guys' picks, what you guys are liking from a pick perspective. Yeah, leave me a comment. Do appreciate every single comment. Those go a long way. Again, if you guys want to support me more or if you want extra content, check out my website, dfsbythenumbers.com. That's where you'll find all my other content that is not, of course, on YouTube. And be on the lookout for more content on YouTube throughout the week as well. Best of luck, everybody, for UFC 103, Vegas 103. It should be a fun card, and we'll talk to you guys later. See ya.